Good evening, everybody. It is so good to be on the Zena Heart to Heart show with a fellow author today, Harshali Singh. Harshali, welcome to Zena for this topic where we discuss why we write.
Thank you so much, Sandhya. I'm so glad to be here, and it's always nice to come back to Zena. It's like a family away from family, and it's wonderful to be a part of a community where reading and creative people are celebrated in such ways, and you find so many people who enjoy and love the written word, uh, and are equally invested in it as much as we all are. So it's wonderful to find your community. Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for being in conversation and so lovely to talk to you as always.
I think today, just for the listeners' update, I'd like to start off with who Harshali is, what she has done in the next 1 minute. So let's just find out a little about the person you're seeing on the screen. Dr. Harshali Singh. She's a Delhi-based member judge of the District Consumer Commission and author of 31 books. In a very short span of time, we'll find out why she writes, right? A poet and an occupational therapist. She has written several literary genres, and from poetry to fiction to columns, essays, and contributing to various other anthologies and so on. But with the blessings of Amrita Preetham that she told me a little while ago, with her hand on the head, she's a recipient of the coveted Munshi Premchand Literature Award, the prestigious Ashoka Award, and the Write India Season 2 initiative of the Times of India group she was part of. She has received the Global Progressive Women Award and Iconic Author Award at the Global Leadership Summit organized by Aesthetics International for 2 years in consecutive. She's also been longlisted for the Oxford Book Cover Prize 2023 for Paradox of Dreams. That is so awesome. So wonderful to hear that. Her book, Anarkali, is available on all the platforms. And it's an exploration of the woman who behind that mysterious courtesan Anarkali. Now, here today, we shall discuss a little more in depth on her fourth book in the Haveli series called The Whispers of the Buried Past, and that is ready to be released soon. She's also a founding member of a literary initiative called the House of Harmony. As a literature festival curator, and she has successfully completed 3 editions of this in March of last year, 2025, and we'll find out more about 2026 from her as we move on. Welcome, Harshali. It is such a pleasure and honor to know you and waiting to listen more about and have this conversation.
Thank you so much, Sandhya. I'm so glad to be here, as I was saying. And thank you for that wonderful introduction. Yeah.
So, my first question to you will be, um, what do we write about as authors? What do we write about? Where does that thought come in? How does it start? So let's begin with that.
I've always been interested and intrigued with the complex dynamics of families, of larger family, and how the dynamics intersect and how relationships intersect, etc. That is one of my, I think, the most favorite, topics to kind of explore. And the secret traumas that are there, the unresolved issues, the unexplained violences, the patriarchy, etc., and the internalized misogyny that one sees in large families, and especially of the olden times. Those are the issues that really intrigue me. However, I'm also inspired by whatever is going around me, and I take literally kind of uh, absorb from the ether, so to say, and see what is happening around me. And my profession actually is like, and my profession and my creative writing is like two ends of Newton's cradle. I always say, that it completely the momentum of one ball hitting the ball and then the other one flipping off is what really happens when I'm kind of writing about or I'm thinking about the theme or a topic, so to say. And there's so much happening around us right now. We're in the middle of a flux. The world is going through a churn, and there's so much angst, there's so much agony, there's so much. Then we're literally in a bedrock of emotions which are overflowing and brimming. And from that, I'm able to find a question which triggers the need to explore it further. In every book, I think as I said earlier, and I say it a lot because it's one of my favorite quotes, that the creativity starts with a question. And I think my books start with a question that is troubling me, so to say, and I want to find out more about it. In this book, primarily, as you were saying, and the Haveli series, I am exploring the Haveli and, which actually has become, it started as just being a character in the book, and then it took a life of its own, became the narrator and the sutradhar of the books because it's a series of books. So I think the inspiration comes from life itself and from the fact that there's so much happening in real life that fiction sometimes feels very tame in front of it. And especially in times that we are living in now globally. So I think that is where I tend to draw my inspiration from, draw my you know find solutions for what's happening. Can we find solutions? Is it a possibility to live peacefully? Because the end goal is love, peace, respect. For different people, it's different things. So in every book, I want to explore whether this is a possibility. Maybe give a few solutions if as a reader you choose to dip your hand in it and want to take that. So I think my inspiration comes from the life that I live and what I see around me. So yeah. And so, in fact, to our viewers who are watching us right now, I'd also like to flip that question to you, Sandhya, but only after I tell them a little bit about you. Sandhya Prakash is an advisor, an author, and a coach, and you've been doing this for 25 years, having global experience across sustainability, trading, and business strategy. And you are an entrepreneur, as you were telling me the last time we were speaking, and a thought leader. And you have helped leaders and organizations strengthen their foundations and achieving the right product market fit. Your book, Shifting Sands of Saudi, which I intend to read very soon, is drawn from your experiences in the region. And we'd love to hear more about it, which is going to be my next question. But you are reviving an ancient Bharatiya martial art. That's another interesting concept that and facet of yourself that I want to know. And in fact, you're a certified coach of this in Bangalore. As a polymath, you believe that one can excel in many fields by harnessing inner energy and integrating the learnings towards one's life purpose. What a wonderful way to introduce her. And I hope all our viewers also think that. But, asking you the same question, how do you get inspired? What
introduction and the flip question that you said.
Yeah.
So let me just take the author part out. So for me, just like you mentioned, you take on various roles and how you do. For me, it is hats. So I take off one hat and then I put on another hat, right? And then I'm immersed in that particular thing, things just flow. And yes, the lived experience was the basis of this book, right? So why I wrote, it was a very interesting experience because I'm a debut author. And I have written a lot in terms of essays, maybe on sustainability, spoken at TEDx, various other forms of expression. So I've been a singer from the age of like 5 or 6, both
Mm.
Carnatic music and light music. So these are all forms of expression. I never ever thought that I would put pen to the paper and start writing. Though I
Mm.
like reading, have read a lot till about 16, 17. Then when speaking and expressing oneself through singing started, the
Mm.
reading and writing took a kind of a backseat. But then when after about 30 odd years in the Middle East, we came back to Bharat. And in the last 4 years, this lived experience of Saudi Arabia, especially because in the 90s, it was a very tough time for women to live there. And though it was tough, we had a fantastic time. Okay. So when the country kind of changed from 2018 onwards, people change. I have seen people change. I have seen companies change because that's my job as an advisor for growth and scaling of companies or individuals when I coach. But a country changing so drastically, I went back there and I saw that, yeah, I started reading from 2018 onwards, and that was intriguing to me. At the same time, I decided to put pen to paper to document the history from the eyes of an Indian expat. There are a lot of books that are written about Saudi Arabia, which are very judgmental, to say the least, because people see it from a lens where they may have seen one or two stories and then written
Mm.
about it because it sells. I wanted to write something which was a lived experience. So there was a option of writing fiction or non-fiction, but non-fiction would be more history, and I'm not an expert at historical writing, neither am I qualified for it. So the character called Sakshi, which actually means a witness to the happenings, was born one morning. So when the name came, the story just flowed through.
I
So
love it.
as a person who sees, so that's how Shifting Sands of Saudi was born. 206 pages, about 20 chapters. You can pick any chapter and read it. There is no, though it is written in sequence, it is, you can just pick anything because I read like that. So if I don't read right from the beginning to the end, sometimes I'll pick up something in the center and then read it and then go back. So I said, let me write it that way. So this book was born that way. One other thing I want to share with you, and maybe since you've written so many books, you may resonate. The first draft that I wrote came out in about 30 days.
Wow.
And I looked at it, read it, and I really didn't like it because that was not the story I wanted to say. There was, it was almost like a healing process for me. And I felt that was not the story that I wanted to say. So I trashed that. And the next 2 months, this version was born. So I'm really grateful for that experience and very happy to share the story of this very, very different country,
Yeah.
which many people didn't know because we couldn't enter there. So that's the brief for why I wrote what I wrote and how it came through.
Yeah.
So, from that point onwards, what
Mm.
I'd like to ask you is the latest, publication that you are going to put. What is the title? In the Haveli series, you mentioned it's the fourth,
Mhm.
correct? Yeah. So, fourth series. So, what does it have? If you can go into depth of that, it'll be great because I think you're going to release the book as well shortly.
Oh, it's released actually. We released it in, this is the cover. It's called The Whispers of the Buried Past. And yes, you're absolutely right. It's the fourth book in the Haveli series, which is a series of 8 books. Now, just to give a little bit of context, the Haveli series was born out of a youthful dream that I had. Because in college, I went to this, there's a Haveli called the 100 Doors, which is the Haveli that I had written about. So in college, I went with my friends to Old Delhi, and we were just standing and having some munching on something, and we saw this small teal door, and there was renovation going on. So we just thought, how entitled youth is. So we just
Yeah.
went inside to see what it's all about. And I've been born and brought up in multi-story flats, government flats. So this was a completely new world that opened in front of me with these large, these tall, towering pillars and chhatris and jalis, which I had read so much about in books, but not really seen, and never expected to find behind that small door. So this was when I was in college, and I realized that if I ever wrote a book, this Haveli is going to feature in that. Now, when I started writing the story, it was not meant to be such a big part of the series, but somehow I realized that it had taken, as you were saying, a life of its own. Unknowingly, it became the sutradhar and the narrator of the source stories. It kind of binds all the stories together. Every story is a standalone. However, it's the Haveli, like an old ordering grandfather who's like telling you about who the story is about and kind of pushing the story forward at times. So the Haveli became such a central character in all the books. It has its favorites. It has, there's 7 children, so it has a favorite child. It has a child that, it feels guilty towards, etc. In this particular book, Whispers of the Buried Past, this is about the only boy, the heir, so to say, among 6 sisters in northern India. And, his secret trauma or his unacknowledged guilt that he's going through, or he represents the youth of today, which feels burdened by the unmet expectations of parents. So every character in this particular book is representative of an emotion, and that is what I wanted to highlight in this book. It was a new thing that I was also doing, though I realized that I think that's how we build our characters. They are the characters from the pillars of the book. And so like Dheeraj is the central character, the only boy between 6 sisters, and he is the one who wanted to be a chef, couldn't fulfill his dream, is doing it on the sly. The father said, "No, you have to sit on my sari shop," and he hates it. And so how he finds himself tied up in this generational curse and this generational trauma that is coming down, and how the Haveli is part prisoner, part witness, part protector in this whole story. So, in every
Wow.
book, it's like opening a layer of the history of the family or the Haveli itself. And that is what kind of connects all the books together. Every story is the story of one of the siblings. So the first book is A Window to Her Dreams, which is the story of the first daughter, and it's on, mature love and second chances in love, about marital rape, about violence in marriage, and what are the consequences, how it shapes our personality, etc. That was what I was writing in the first book. The second book is called Anatomy of Choice, and it's about uh, well, different different choices that you make. You may not be very comfortable making because you're born and brought up in India and in the soil of this country, are surrounded by tradition and cultures of a certain kind. So this young girl, who's the second daughter, makes a not a difficult choice. She's in a live-in relationship, but she has a threesome, and then she doesn't know what to do with it. So it's a tricky situation to be in when you're exposed to a culture that you are not sure how to handle the consequences of. And that's what I wanted to explore about swapping, about what do you do when you are in a position, and do you tell your family? And in that story, what I did was I intersected a timeline of the 16th century, wherein she finds a journal of a 16th century courtesan, and how the book is like the intersecting timelines talk about whether women are still struggling between love and ambition, and is that a choice we are free to make even today? So that was the question that began that book. As I was telling you, that every book begins with a question. The third book, Paradox of Dreams, is about the third sister. She's blind, and yet she's psychic, so she can see, she can feel what you're feeling, and how she solves cases, and that's her story and her issues of abandonment because she was sent to her nanny's house. That a lot of our parents do when you're coming from a small town. You do send your children back to your grandparents to be born and brought up because you're busy with taking care of other children or work commitments, etc. And and I realized that during that time when I was writing the book, or why I started writing the books, were primarily because I was seeing a lot of it around me, and I was seeing how difficult it was for parents or for people to find a way to kind of emote themselves. And there was guilt, and there was still, you have to do this. So these kind of things kind of made me want to write about these very tricky and sometimes uh, touchy subjects that not everybody is comfortable talking about, and people prefer brushing under the carpet. This book was primarily is about karmic death and reincarnations and hauntings, etc. So this was again another genre that I tried, which is horror. So this is another thing actually I wanted to talk about, that how if you write a series or if you write a lot of books, you're able to explore yourself as an author, because you can find ways of, or you can find it in each story to explore a different genre, and that allows you to see how much you can stretch your boundaries yourself. So it's been a pleasure doing it. It's been I've never felt frustrated or anything like that. I'll tell you about a funny. This book really took its time, as you were saying that it came after a little while, but primarily it came out after a little while because of a certain reason, which we'll talk about later, maybe.
Later.
And yeah. So that was the
You
reason.
know, as you were talking, I was taken back. So I grew up in UP on the
Mhm.
banks of the Ganges. So
Mhm.
coming from the south as a Tamilian,
Yeah,
my first language like पहले निकलती है हिंदी हमारे मुंह से. So
right,
it
right,
is like from there I went to Pilani. And
right.
the first time I saw a Haveli, like I was thinking, when did you first see a Haveli?
Yeah.
So the Birla family in Pilani has a Haveli there. It's
Mhm.
a beautiful thing which has been now, also made into something. So the first thought came was in the desert with the colorful clothes of people walking and this Haveli. And then
Yeah,
any Haveli for me, there has to be a window on top.
yeah.
जहाँ अंदर से एक झरोका, from there
Yoga,
you
right.
look out. And so you took me back to thinking, I'm sure your books
No,
will.
actually, there is this happened about 2 years back, that when I started writing this Haveli, I was imagining it. So I was writing about the Haveli, imagining a certain way, that there'll be lots of steps in front, etc. The Haveli of the Hundred Doors, which exists in Chandni Chowk even today, does not have all this. But
Oh,
I wanted to obviously extrapolate it, make it
right.
bigger, and all of that. And 2 years back, I remember I was just doom scrolling, and I realized that there is this Haveli which exists, which is like a manifestation of my imagination. And I can't tell you that moment where I was so, I was like dumbstruck that how is this possible? And we actually went and lived there for 2 days. And I can't tell you, I think I was just floating 1 inch above the ground, roaming around in that thing with my camera in hand and taking pictures as
No,
much
I
as
can I can completely understand. It is not about manifestation of
yeah,
imagination as much as a memory that
yeah.
you probably had buried somewhere in your past lives,
I
with
have no,
just you remembered. So it is
yeah,
more a remembrance. Who
uh,
knows?
I don't know. And that's why I wrote this book, which is about reincarnation. So, yeah, it could be. But I can't tell you, Sandhya, how surreal it was to
Yeah.
actually, because it's not very far. It's in Rajasthan, Patan Mahal karke hai.
Huh.
And I found that, and I told my husband, I said, I have to go and live there. I can't not
Yeah.
do it. So we
Correct.
made a plan and we went. And when the car like reached that place, I actually just stood there and I was it was a surreal moment to see whatever you had visualized and written down. By then, 3 books I had written, and to see all that in front of you was like, I can't tell you that emotion.
No, beautiful,
I'm still
beautiful.
trying to find words for how I felt at that time. It was like the universe's favorite child.
No, very nice, very nice. Thank you for sharing that because it's so special, and every human being waits for those magical moments which are strewn, like across the path that we walk, right?
Yeah.
So very nice. Thank you so much for sharing that. So that Haveli moment was there. The
Yeah.
second thing which caught my attention when you were talking about was this growing up in grandparents' house, right? It was very common, and even the grandparents used to say, "ये वाला बच्चा मुझे दे दीजिए, हम बड़ा करके दे देंगे, तुम देखो आगे." So, but the child, what the child goes through, maybe like an abandonment feeling, अरे मम्मी पापा ने मुझे छोड़ दिया. That all it will manifest later in life, but we just took it in the stride, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you know what happens is that for that child, especially in the child in my book, Charu, she is blind and she thinks that my parents are abandoning me because of the fact that I do not have the sight. And she
Mm.
loses it at 9 years of age. So it's not like she's born without sight. And how she's trying to figure a way to understand. And plus, with her, how they say that if you lose one sense, sometimes the other senses will
Yeah.
take over and help you to kind of maneuver around your surroundings. And that's the case with her, that she's got these abilities which she doesn't know the strength of. And so to be able to kind of figure her out, and her mother's got up, there's so many things happening in the mother. That is another book that's going to come. And
Nice, nice.
how every
You're really inspiring me to write a series. I
Oh,
tell
please
you,
do. I love them.
you're really inspiring me to write my next. There have been people who've been asking me, Sandhya, when is the next one coming? I don't know why it should come. I never thought of it before, but you are really an inspiration. So
So,
we'll think
Sandhya,
about.
you have
Yeah.
to tell us about, you said Sakshi, was born from the name. So tell us a little bit more about Sakshi and your characters. Are they around you? Are they real people that you put in your book, or are they all fictional?
No, no, very much. So this is the book.
Yeah.
It is a cover that again just popped up, just like the name. So I do a lot of energy art. I paint with my fingers and nails based on auras of people. So this one called out to me and said, "Okay, I will be on the book."
Yes.
Cover. So I said, okay, aa jao. So
Yeah.
it was like that. But having said that, Sakshi, when the name came, um, in Saudi Arabia in those days, women couldn't drive. They were
Mm.
not allowed to drive. We couldn't travel without no objection certificate from our husbands.
Yeah, yeah.
And also in some of the families, a male accompanying the female when they are traveling was important.
Right.
From BITS Pilani, after graduating, studying all this, going to a country like this, though I knew, we thought we'll stay there for a couple of years, and then we stayed there for 11 years. It was so good. So the Sakshi character is about 60-70% based on me and women like me who were there in this hugely black gold and normal gold country, which was there, and all women. We lived in compounds which were like inside which everything was allowed, but when you came out, it was a different world. So it was in and out of two worlds constantly.
Yeah.
जेल में क्या होता है, अंदर कुछ नहीं रहता है, and then बाहर, you think you have freedom,
Yeah,
and
you
then you
think
go.
about it.
Here it
Yeah.
was the reverse. Inside you had everything. So from squash courts to nobody needed to follow rules and so on and so forth. So these were oases in the
Yeah.
desert, is what.
Yeah.
So the perspective I wanted to show people was because visas and all were so difficult to get to this country. There is a very limited number of people who live there. But the friendships that we made because we were in these compounds last us a lifetime. Each and every friend and family over the last 11 years, we are still so thick and together. So this was also an ode I felt for what we are all traveled together to be documented from Sakshi's point of view. And the other thing Sakshi does is because she's a very independent woman. She is also somebody who's a go-getter, wants to live by the rules, but a rebel. So she's full of these contradictions and wants to express herself in this country, yet not fall into trouble and so on. So she always has to travel with a driver.
Mm.
And what she can see is the rear view mirror. So the entire witness is as if through a rear view mirror. So she's looking because she can't drive, but you can see what's happening at the back, what's happening in the side and the front. So it is from that multi-dimensional point of view is created, but she cannot be the leader or the driver as much as she wants. So that is how the story goes from the time she boards the plane to Jeddah. She sees, that country got a lot of unskilled workers first because they were building the country, right? When oil was first struck in
Yeah,
1970s, 80s. So as it grew along, so there are people of both education levels. One, the very high people who are very well educated, and then a lot of unskilled. So it starts from there and then ravels into the local politics, the local rules and regulations. The books and magazines were all banned because of the Sharia practiced there in a proper way. We had to cover our self. But Sakshi always took the positive attitude to everything. So she stopped ironing her clothes. She said, "What's the point? Oh, come
nobody's
on.
going to.
We just anyway, you're going to cover yourself. So why?" And then, so everything positively. And then, as she starts seeing in the rearview mirror, so many new experiences add up, which others in the other world would have thought as common, but this was very, very different. So that is why, for the shared experiences of myself and my friends, I thought we had to write this down from an Indian perspective because culturally, the West is very different from the Middle East, the Arabian region, I will say, rather than the Middle East, because perspective wise, this is Arabia, right? And at some point in time, they are more culturally close to Bharat and the Southeast Asia in terms of culture. So there are a lot of parallels drawn there, and it's a very, should be an interesting read for all the people that who saw.
Sounds so intriguing, and for someone who likes to read a different perspective, I'm going to enjoy it. I look forward to reading the book.
Awesome, awesome. Let me ask you one other thing. Let's come down to people, our viewers who want to write maybe, and what is the benefit that accrues from writing a book? Because you have written not one, two, so many of them, plus essays and others. What are the benefits of writing?
So, when I started writing, one, I didn't think I was writing to publish it. I was writing because it was a form of, I think, catharsis. It began like that. I was always writing. Earlier, I was writing poetry, but poetry is my first love. So I tend to, I'm not very open with it. I haven't yet come out with the book, though I've been told many times to do that. But I tend to write that for myself even today. Uh, for this, I took myself seriously, I think more in 2014-15, when I realized that the story was, had been percolating inside me for a very long time. And as you said, that when you write from lived experiences, or when you write from a real raw place, it really kind of it needs to be written down, very frankly. And I think the first story really needed to be written down for myself. So I didn't begin writing for it to go out into the world. It just so happened that I was talking to a couple of people, attending a friend's book launch, and I was saying that, oh, I'm thinking of sending the manuscript. It's ready, and I should send it out, and I am planning to send it out, and things like that. And what is the best way? Because I don't come from a background where there are any writers in the family. So I was still learning the ropes, and I was still figuring, okay, what am I supposed to do now that I have a full length novel? Um, and so I get a tap on my shoulder, and I have this publisher from Readomania, Dipankar, who said that, oh, why don't you? I just heard you talking about your book. Why don't you send it to me? So he came back immediately after a few days and said, oh, I'm interested in this. And when I began, I wanted to write as a it was like that Gone with the Wind tome of a book wherein I wanted Thornbirds and all of that. That was in my mind, that it's going to be a big book with all the sibling stories together and all of that. But he said, no, it's a better idea to do a series so that you have the space to explain. So that happened. And then, of course, I've been with him. I've not, he's the one who understands my variables. So it's been very comfortable and a very smooth sailing till now, thankful, touch wood. Other than that, so yes, as I was saying, that how we begin speaking is that it allows me to understand the world around me, make sense of it, maybe see a lot of times see my own place in it, whether I can make sense of what's happening in the society, in the underbelly of the society at times, and see where I stand, on which side. And sometimes I will just write a short story so probably it's a way to kind of understand my world and what I experience in it. And also, as I was saying, that is very cathartic for me. So I write for that as well. Beyond that, it's given me a beautiful community. We sit together talking today, not knowing each other a week back.
Yeah.
So it has given me lovely people to meet, and a lot of interesting people who see the world very differently sometimes than I do. And I think that is the benchmark of growing up and evolving, when you can accept someone else's point of view, though you may not agree with it. And reading is always a pleasure. It's always nice to be around people who are more interested in, what is written down, how to explore it, and
Beautiful.
to make sense of it. So I
Beautiful.
think all of that, and well, I think I was always very internal. I mean, I tend to go inside rather than outside most of the times. So it allows me to do that more often than not.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
How about you?
So I think one in at work, I was always an expert in the Middle East because having lived for 28 years. But what this book brought out was that authority that, okay, Sandhya has written a book on the Middle East in Saudi, so
Yeah.
it must be something through, her experiences,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So one is on the cementing of the authority at work. Okay.
Okay.
Secondly, which I feel which is more subtle, is the because it came out of lived experiences to a certain extent, the authenticity that gets attached to the person when they are speaking about the book or the character or the stories in there or answering the questions. So there was a definite addition in that I'm seeing in the last 1.5, 2 years, when I finally, this year, that is 2025, I brought it on the bookstores. So after a lot of thought and stuff like that. So anyway, but I felt that authenticity multiplied by like 4 or 5 for sure. Okay. So that was something that the book gave me. Till that time, I worked in the solar field, environment field. And you know what, Harshali, that I used to think, अरे इतना पेपर वेस्ट हो रहा है आजकल तो डिजिटल है किंडल है I shouldn't even be printing a book. But then when I wrote this book, it had to be on paper for me to touch, feel.
Yeah.
It was not because of me, because the other person sitting and reading this, because it was heavy in some places for
Yeah.
people to digest. So I
Yeah.
felt it should be also as a book. So that was again a very interesting takeaway for me personally. Then
No,
the book
and,
did another. Yes, please.
no, no, go ahead, go ahead.
So
I'll add.
the book did another very interesting thing to me was uh, to put the vulnerabilities that I felt at the age when I had just got married, gone there, and probably to revisit it and close the loop because the country had changed. So
Yeah.
why not Sandhya also change, and accept many things which were probably hidden and which were not, explored at that point in time because of the ferocity of that country and the rules and regulations and so on. So
Yeah.
it gave a beautiful closure for me for many things. So I think these are some of the areas which I think were very valuable and couldn't have been in any other way, not by singing, not by speaking about it, because words in the air, they can just dissipate, right?
Yeah.
But this needed documentation of a certain history. And what gave it more weight was this history has not been written authentically, properly from this perspective ever. So when I found this book, when it was launched alongside some Mossad books and Gaza Strip books and others, it started getting listed. I said, oh my God, I never intended it to be a history book. But recently I was in Vietnam speaking at a forum. And the people, when they came to know I had written this, they sent the Arabic Studies division head to come and meet me and say, you know what is this book about? We would like our students to understand and know what the true story from an Indian perspective is or an Asian perspective is. So you never know, the intent with which you write the book and how it actually turns out. So it's a historical book now. It is on women empowerment. So I
Yeah.
get called to speak on that. And thirdly, about why a society can change and
Hmm.
how it changes. And with good leadership, you can change a society from what it was to another with good intent. So it has become both, in all these aspects.
As we were saying, that it's actually taken a life of its own, and sometimes the book will actually find its own destiny, and without your knowing, because as you were saying, you sometimes you'll just write it because it seems interesting, and you're interested in the character, etc., and yet it will find its own audience, and the audience sometimes tells you, or the readers will tell you, oh, I found this about the way, and said, oh, I didn't even write it in that sense, but thank you for that. So a lot of times, yes, that does happen. In fact, with my last book, Anarkali, this is what happened. That I was writing the series, and then the publisher said, "Oh, I want you. Why don't you, who's the woman that you feel who's not been given her due?" And I said, "Oh." Immediately, I said Anarkali because she's always used as a prop in, all these plays and the
Yeah.
movies and stories, and she's not given her due. I don't think she would have been only this lovelorn woman who didn't know her mind from, uh, you know. So he said, "Oh, why don't you research on her and write on her?" And that's how the book was born. Because the more I was researching her, the more I was looking for her, I couldn't find her anywhere. She was just erased from history. And I said, "No, oh, that means I need to write about her, get her voice to be heard." So yes. So and when I talk about Anarkali, it's with so much passion, and because you realize that women were like a postscript in history because it was written by men. So only women who were important enough were really mentioned, and yet there are so many voices which haven't been heard. They're mentioned in a certain role. They're put in a pigeonhole and kept there so that they are for this only. And I don't say this myself. There's so many people I spoke to who are the authority on Mughal era, and yet when it came to Anarkali, they only saw her as a courtesan and not as a woman herself. That what she would have had to go through to reach where she did, where she was impacting not one but two emperors who changed the landscape, so to say.
Yeah.
So these kind of things, when it really is important to you, I think it kind of shows in the book and the work. And I think the author becomes just a conduit to sometimes the characters, as you were just saying. And how lovely. It's so
And
nice
then, and
to.
then, and then, when you say anarkali, so
Mhm.
it's the pomegranate flower, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the flower actually exists even after you take the fruit. Little bit of it is there, niche, and then it comes. So it is actually a really small part of that big fruit which is
Yeah.
there. And it's a very interesting fruit. There are not too many fruits where you would even, swallow the seeds and stuff like that. So, dekho to, if you really go deeper into just the name and flesh it out, you can write 2 chapters on this, right? And yeah, what you said is also a lot of perception is created by movies
Yeah.
made, right, around the courtesan, the songs that are sung. So we
It's a very strange role that they have been put in, that nobody can see beyond it. Now, of course, you have people trying to explore about the women behind the courtesan label.
Mm.
And that was one of the things I wanted to do as well for her, because nothing is written about her. So that way, even though it's a historical fiction, so the facts and all of that are the same for Akbar and for Salim. However, for her, I had the pleasure of writing her the way I wanted. I saw her, or I
Saw
saw.
her, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what I have done in my book, there's one chapter where um, Sakshi is invited to a Saudi girl's wedding. So she teaches in a college, and her student invites her to the wedding, and a couple of other students say, "Please come in a sari." Right?
Mm.
Indian dress, please. So she dresses up in a sari. Of course, nobody can know she's wearing a sari because it's all covered up. But then how the sari comes off when they go to the women's section, it's a very and it was a memory that was a small a thing that was there. But when I started putting pen to paper, the entire scene came up in front, how it was a gorgeous wedding, and then how the entire room was full of women. Just the groom is allowed in that tradition to come in because no other men are allowed where women's wedding is going on. It happens in 2 different rooms. And so coming back to Salim and Anarkali, the women, what they are going through in their head in that room was
Yeah.
suddenly visible because these are not situations we are put in day to day in our culture. So there
Yeah.
is a huge cultural silo that we live in, right?
Mm.
And if we don't read about some other culture, you would never understand the people. Even if at workplace they come and work with you, you will
Yeah.
not know why they are saying what they are saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a huge benefit
Yeah.
of reading or even writing
Absolutely.
for that matter.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think we are at 7:18. So we have another maybe 10 minutes to wrap up towards the end.
Yeah.
So what do you hope to achieve by the authoring this book? Where are you going to go from here? And let's talk a little more about this curator of a literary fest that is also taking shape
Yeah.
in baby steps over the last 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah.
So tell me more.
So I partnered with another author friend, and we decided that because we keep going to a lot of literature festivals, so we thought that is the next, sort of, our next thing to do. Something we both wanted to give a platform to debut authors who, and give them the same platform as established authors so that they can form their own networks, can learn from each other, hear them, be part of the same, circle, so to say. So that was the reason we began, and it's a niche kind of uh, lit fest. It's not sponsored, so we tend to kind of stay around in and around Delhi NCR, looking for authors who will either come happily on their own, or or someone maybe one day will come and say, "Oh, come, I'll sponsor this for you." So, so that is the aim. We've been doing it for 3 years. The fourth one is ready to happen on 15th of March, and we look forward to having a very nice lineup of authors who bring a lot of value to people who enjoy listening to authors and writers and creative people. So as of now, we are slowly building and slowly finding our feet, and bringing people together to kind of create a world or a community, as I was saying, wherein the focus is on the written word and what kind of books you've written, rather than on the outward of how you are writing it, or what more can you bring to the table. So we want to keep it like that, so that everybody who's interested can come, join us, join our team, become part of this House of Harmony community, and give whatever they wish to give in it for however long they do. So that was the intent. We've thankfully had the good fortune of meeting people who or getting in touch with people who are happy to do that. And essentially, you realize people are really nice. I mean, people are generally very nice. Of course, circumstances and situations can be different for everybody, which is acceptable. So we are in a good place for now. We are happy to do what we are doing in a small way. And because the more you increase it, the more you need to give. Both of us are working. We have our professional lives separate from our writing careers. So we can only do so much, so to say.
Fair
But
enough, fair
yeah,
enough. More power to you, more power to you.
thank
When
you.
you build a community, it is invaluable. And I remember when we were in the Middle East, I built a community for food
Oh,
and healthy eating and plant-based food. And
yeah.
it stands so beautifully protecting you, when you
Yeah.
build a community. So it's always
It's a
wonderful.
legacy, isn't it? It's a legacy that you leave
Yeah,
behind, just like
yeah,
words and just like books. I know that tomorrow I will not be here,
right,
and I am transient, and I hope that people will keep my books and run their fingers on the words and remember me somewhere somehow.
yeah,
In the same way, these are the communities which will be taken forward tomorrow
yeah,
without my presence, and
yeah,
and that's what you want, that you leave a
right,
legacy behind which is self-sustaining, and you're able to reach more and more people.
right. So, in conclusion, let me ask you one straightforward, quick question. Harshali the judge, Harshali the author.
Which one
Who
do I?
wins? Who wins?
I said it in the first question. There are two ends of Newton's cradle for me. One is always hitting the other so that the momentum is kept, and they hit it off against each other. I think they're just facets of me itself, and with so many, and all women have so many more facets than just two or three. So these are just my facets, and thankfully I have many. Just like you do, Sandhya. I know there is so much, as we are discussing, we are also putting our cards on the table, that this is also what I do, this is also what I do. So we need to have a longer conversation on this.
Yeah, we probably will do one whenever we find the time, space, and the platform. But it's been such a pleasure speaking to you,
Thanks.
Harshali, and I have learned a lot. You're inspirational, and when we meet in person at some time, because there's hardly a 2 week
Yes,
interaction we've had, and
yes,
it was wonderful to go into depth in the 45-50 minutes that we've been speaking.
yes.
So thank you so much. I'm sure the Zena family will be extremely happy to see and learn. And I don't know how many authors will come out, and we could probably build an author community right here, in Zena family.
Absolutely. I think we should. I think it's high time we do. And thank you so much, Sandhya. It was such a pleasure talking to you, though, as you were rightly saying, that we've just been speaking for a couple of weeks, but it feels as if I've known you in another lifetime. I keep coming back to it. And somehow, I feel that. if you are exploring a theme, or if you are dipping yourself or drowning yourself in a theme, somehow the pattern forms and everything seems as if it's kind of pushing you to that particular theme only. And so I hope that, that, and I'm sure, I think we were connected somewhere or the other, just like you
And
said.
you know what? With your permission, a song is coming into my head
Please go ahead. I was
for
just going
your
to
book.
ask.
Okay,
Yes.
ये
Okay.
एक गाना है गुमनाम है कोई.
Oh my God.
ओके, तो मुझे बस
Yeah,
दो
please,
टू
please,
लाइन्स टू फिल.
please, please.
गुमनाम है कोई, बदनाम है कोई, किसको खबर कौन है वो, अनजान है कोई, किसको समझे हम अपना, कल का नाम है एक सपना, आज अगर तुम जिंदा हो, कल के लिए, तो कल के लिए माला जपना. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. This is
So,
such a precious memory for me. I think I'm always going to save this. Thank you
same
so
here.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
And viewers, please watch, please buy the two books that were featured here today. And let me bring mine too.
Yes.
So these are from two parts across the world, but very similar and very different too. So thank you, Harshali. That was complete pleasure. Namaste.
Thank you so much. Thank you.